Well, folks, as it turns out, we only have one more slide to go. So, I want to talk a little bit about something that has definitely shifted within social psychology since the rise of cognitive psychology in the late 1950s. So, beginning in about 1956, if you've had other classes with me, you know that I've often talked about something that's called the cognitive revolution, which is basically the idea that you can absolutely look at mental states within a person and different mental processes like attention and memory and things like that. But what's really critical is that you do so in a very careful, systematic, and scientific way. And so, especially beginning in the 1960s and the 1970s, we start to see the growth of cognitive psychology with a special emphasis on mental processes like attention, memory, decision making, problem solving, etc. A part of this was an outgrowth of World War II and the rise of designing things that people could use more effectively, such as piloting planes better. It's also due to the rise of computer technology, and with it, the idea that the human mind could potentially function just like a computer could. And so we see cognitive psychology begin to develop as its own subfield. And obviously, cognition is involved in everything we do. And it stands to reason that if you're interested in how people engage in different types of social situations, you might also be curious about what types of mental processes must be going on as people interact with social situations. And this leads to the growth of what we call social cognition. So we talk about additional research on attitudes, cognitive dissonance, and how our social knowledge informs the way that we perceive people and different types of mental processes around us. And additionally, the rise of neuroimaging in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s led to the development of social neuroscience. So, just as cognitive neuroscience looks at brain activity as one engages in different types of cognitive processes, social neuroscience examines how the brain responds and what brain activity looks like when people are engaged in different types of social situations or are being influenced by social situations or are thinking about social situations. And that's really where the field is today. We have a greater emphasis on cognition and mental processes, and we're having a greater reliance on different aspects of the brain. So that's really all I wanted to cover for this short little lecture. I realize that it's short, but I don't want you to miss out on some interesting discussions that we could have in person as a class when I get back on Wednesday. And so I do have an assignment for you. So make sure that you listen. Don't quit the YouTube video just yet. I'd like you to read the opening. Obviously, you should be reading your textbook anyway, but pay special attention to that opening story about the Heaven's Gate cult and the Hale Bopp comet. And if you want to do a little bit of extra reading on Heaven's Gate, what they were about, what happened, I would go ahead and do that. But I'm really interested to hear your thoughts about whether or not you think that you could potentially be influenced to join a cult similar to these people joining the Heaven's Gate cult. Just something to think about for next time. I'm sure we'll have a very interesting discussion about it. I'm having a wonderful time at the conference, but I can't wait to be back at Cotty and teaching all of you. I will see you on Wednesday. Have a great weekend.